May 24th, 2020. Emily Noble was celebrating her birthday. Everything seemed normal, but the very next day, she suddenly vanished. For months later, her body was found in the woods, hanging from a tree. There was only one question: was it suicide or an extremely clever murder? The case of Emily Noble. The story of Emily Noble is nothing short of a tragedy, and to understand it, we have to begin our journey from the very start of her life. Emily was born on May 24th, 1968, in a small town in Ohio. She grew up in a typical middle-class family, where her parents gave her love and values. Her father worked at a local factory, and her mother was a school teacher, which meant Emily was exposed to a learning environment right at home. From childhood, she was quite sensitive and kind-hearted, always taking care of animals and her friends. Her childhood friends still remember that Emily was always smiling and had a unique zest for life. But very early on, sorrow began to enter her life, as if some curse had started following her. During her school days, Emily was a promising student. In the schools of Westerville, she was counted among the bright students. Besides her studies, she had a deep interest in art and music. She was part of the school's drama club, and everyone praised her acting. But perhaps this artistic temperament made her more vulnerable to the harsh blows of reality. It was during her school days that she first felt the pain of losing someone close, when her grandmother passed away in a road accident. This was the turning point in her life where she saw loss and grief up close. Still, she continued her studies and held on to her dreams like any normal girl. She thought about going to college, dreamed of getting a good job, but fate had other plans. As she entered young adulthood, Emily faced a major tragedy. Her mother died in a car accident, which was a profound shock for her. She was extremely close to her mother, and after her passing, she began to feel very alone. Around that time, she met her first husband. Everything was fine initially, but over time, their married life started to sour. Her first husband had mental health issues and was struggling with depression. Emily tried very hard to support him, but eventually, one day, he committed suicide. This was the second major blow for Emily. She blamed herself, questioning if she had failed to save her husband. This incident broke her internally, but she pulled herself together and tried to move forward in life. She gave birth to a son, who became the most precious thing in her life. She wanted to give her son everything she herself couldn't have. But it was as if a dark shadow loomed over her, as another tragedy struck. Her son, entering his teenage years, became a victim of mental stress. Perhaps his father's death and his mother's pain had deeply affected him. Emily tried everything possible for her son, got him counseling, spent time with him, but ultimately, in July 2019, her son also committed suicide. There can be no greater pain for a mother than this. After losing her mother, her husband, and now her only son, Emily was completely shattered. She was left alone in her life, and her spirit had died inside. During this time, she met Matthew Moore, who seemed to bring a new dawn into her life. Matthew supported her, loved her, and they got married. Emily felt that finally, happiness had returned to her life. But perhaps this was her biggest mistake. On May 24th, 2020, Emily turned 52. It was the time of the COVID-19 pandemic, and people were confined to their homes. But on that day, bars had reopened. Emily and Matthew celebrated by going to several restaurants in uptown Westerville. That evening, around 7 to 8 p.m., a neighbor saw her outside her house. A bartender, Jessica Selfridge, who saw them both that night, later stated that they stayed for about 45 minutes and talked about COVID and masks. The next day, May 25th, at 2:47 p.m., Emily's friend Celeste Groen received a call from Emily's phone. When she answered, she found Matthew on the other end, asking if Emily was with her. He told her they were supposed to go to a party and that Emily had gone for a walk in the morning and hadn't returned. Celeste immediately advised him to call the police. That same evening, Matthew filed a police report stating his wife was missing. Police searched the house but found no suspicious evidence. For the next 4 months, there was no news of Emily. Police, family, and friends searched the area multiple times. Drones, cadaver dogs, bloodhounds, every possible resource was used. Then, on September 16, 2020, horrifying news came. 3 women, who were out searching for Emily, spotted a body in the woods near County Line Road. They immediately called 911. The woman who called reported that the body was of a white female, very short in stature. Emily was 5 feet 1 inch tall and weighed around 100 pounds. She also reported that there was a rope hanging from a tree where the body was found. The body was found less than half a mile from her home. A 20-inch USB cable was wrapped around her neck. She was found in a kneeling position, wearing Easy Spirit shoes, and jewelry and a water bottle were found nearby. On September 22nd, Police Chief Charles Chandler held a press conference and announced that based on dental records, the body had been identified as Emily Noble. This was later confirmed by DNA testing. Chandler stated, "This case is far from over. The Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation was brought in to assist with the investigation. Now the investigation began. Initially, it seemed like a case of suicide. Emily's life had been filled with so many tragedies that her becoming depressed and taking her own life wouldn't have been surprising." Detective Steve Grubbs later said that when he read the initial report, something didn't sit right with him, a gut feeling that something was wrong. During the investigation, it came to light that Matthew frequently went to the area where Emily's body was found to pick herbs and flowers, meaning he was very familiar with that location. The autopsy report changed the entire direction of the case. According to the Montgomery County Coroner's report released on January 21, 2021, Emily's death was caused by multiple injuries to the head and neck. Forensic experts found fractures in the bones of Emily's face and throat that are typically associated with strangulation. Dr. William Smock, a strangulation expert, testified that she was strangled and then hung from the tree. Experts argued that hanging does not typically cause this type of injury. They believed Emily was murdered first, and then her body was hung from the tree to make it look like a suicide. On June 17, 2021, a Delaware County grand jury indicted Matthew Moore on 2 counts of murder, and he was arrested. At the time of his arrest, Matthew told police they were making a mistake and that he did not murder his wife. He suggested that she did something to herself. Meanwhile, Emily's sister-in-law, Dawn Noble, shared that the family wasn't surprised by the dental confirmation, but it was still hard to hear. Emily's friend Krista Williams had said, "She left her keys, her wallet, and her cell phone. She has a good job here in Westerville. She wouldn't just leave her job. That's not like her." Additionally, an attorney, Thomas Taniff, filed a lawsuit in Delaware County Probate Court seeking to remove Matthew from having power of attorney over Emily's estate. Before the trial, a significant legal battle ensued. On July 25, 2022, just days before the trial was set to begin, the defense presented a report from forensic anthropologist Dr. Heather Garvin, who stated that suicide could not be ruled out as a cause of death. The prosecution moved to delay the trial, arguing they needed more time to find their own expert witness. They described the trial court's attitude as unreasonable, arbitrary, and insensitive and appealed. However, the judge denied the request to delay, stating that the parties had ample time to prepare for trial, and that the trial had already been continued 3 times. The trial began on August 15, 2022. Over the course of the 11-day trial, numerous witnesses testified. Prosecutor Mark Sleeper argued to the jury that Emily had faced every difficulty in life and was making a comeback. She was seeing doctors, exercising, and about to return to work. There was no reason for her to commit suicide. He also stated that Matthew was unemployed at the time and would stay home drinking. He told the court that Matthew murdered Emily during a 3-hour window after 9 p.m. and then concealed the evidence. On the other side, Matthew's defense attorney, Diane Minashi, argued vigorously. She claimed the prosecution's entire case was based entirely on speculation. She detailed for the jury all the tragedies in Emily's life. She reminded them that Emily lost her mother, witnessed her first husband's suicide, and suffered the biggest blow when her 17-year-old son also took his own life. Her argument was that this grief was so profound that Emily ultimately committed suicide. She also argued that Emily's bones were fragile and that the injuries could have resulted from hanging. Emily's sister also testified during the trial. She recounted that Matthew had threatened her over the phone, saying, "You need to think long and hard about whether you want to see your sister again." The jury was also shown video footage of Matthew's police interview. After 3 weeks of testimony, on August 26, 2022, the jury delivered its verdict. After only 3 hours of deliberation, the jury found Matthew Moore not guilty. As the judge read the verdict, Matthew buried his face in his hands and began to cry, sobbing. A silence fell over the courtroom. The prosecution was dealt a significant blow. The question of sentencing didn't arise, as Matthew Moore was acquitted. The jury found no evidence that he had murdered Emily. There were no eyewitnesses, no clear motive for murder. All the evidence was circumstantial and not strong enough to convict someone of a crime carrying a potential life sentence or worse. The defense was successful in establishing that Emily's suicide was a possibility that could not be dismissed. This case once again raised the question of how justice can be guaranteed when there are no eyewitnesses and the evidence is purely circumstantial. Emily Noble's death remains a mystery to this day. In October 2023, an episode of Dateline NBC, titled The Clearing, aired about this entire case, featuring Matthew Moore's first television interview. Either Emily truly did commit suicide, worn down by the countless tragedies in her life, or her husband committed such a precise crime that he managed to escape due to lack of evidence. Matthew was acquitted, but for Emily's family and friends, this is a pain that will never end. They still yearn to know the truth, but perhaps that truth will never be revealed to them. Emily's life is a tragic story, where no one won, only loss scattered everywhere. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Stay with us for more true stories like this. Thank you.